Hello, are there any unemployed people who have been unemployed for almost 1 year? Maybe even longer? How do you deal with this?
First off, I just want to acknowledge the courage it takes to even ask a question like that. Being unemployed for a long time is way more common than people think, but it often feels incredibly isolating. It's so easy to hide away under this heavy weight of shame or this feeling that you've somehow failed. So the most important thing to hear right now is this: you are absolutely not alone.
So let's dive right into the core of this. Of course, the financial strain is real and it's stressful, but what often ends up being the heaviest burden is the unseen psychological weight of it all. And that's the part we really need to talk about with some compassion.
This one question, wow, it just gets right to the heart of the struggle, doesn't it? For so many of us, our job is so much more than just a paycheck. It's a huge part of our identity. It gives us our daily structure. It's our social role. And when that just disappears, it can feel like a massive piece of who you are has just been erased. It can trigger a really profound and disorienting identity crisis. And it's so important to understand that these feelings are not a sign that you're weak. Not at all. They are completely normal, predictable, psychological responses to a major life disruption. That drop in self-esteem, getting caught in the trap of comparing yourself to friends who are working, that constant nagging fear, these are all part of the process. Just recognizing them as a natural reaction is the very first step toward getting a handle on them. Okay, so knowing these feelings are normal is one thing, but what do we do about it? How do we actually move forward? Let's shift gears now from just understanding the problem to looking at some practical, actionable strategies. The goal here is pretty simple: to start regaining a sense of control and to build up your resilience, one day at a time.
We can actually frame our approach around these 5 core strategies. Think of them like a toolkit for getting through this really challenging time. We're going to walk through them one by one, and we'll start with what is arguably the most important foundation for your mental well-being right now.
And that brings us to the first and maybe most foundational strategy: creating a daily structure. I know, when you don't have a job to go to, what's the point? But routine is absolutely essential. Set a time to wake up, schedule some time for job applications, and, this is key, make time for physical activity. A routine creates predictability when everything else feels so uncertain, and it really does act like a powerful shield for your mind.
All right, so once you start building that foundation of stability with a routine, the next phase is really about doing the internal work. This is all about fundamentally shifting how you see yourself in your situation. It's about moving from a perspective of loss to one of inherent value.
This leads us to a really critical distinction you have to make. A job is just a role you perform. It's what you do. It is not a measure of who you are. It is not, and it never was, the sum total of your worth. Your value as a person is inherent. It's just there. Really internalizing this separation is a huge psychological step toward rebuilding your confidence. And here's what that looks like in practice. It's about shifting from these huge, destructive thoughts to small, constructive goals. Thinking, I have to find a job immediately is just overwhelming, right? It can lead to total paralysis. But reframing that to, okay, today I will update my CV. That's concrete, it's achievable. Each one of those little victories builds momentum, and it actively fights back against that feeling of helplessness. And this brings us to a really powerful way to reframe this whole experience. Now, I know this is an incredibly difficult time, but this period can also be a rare opportunity for some deep self-reflection. It's like a forced pause that lets you ask the big questions. Was I actually happy in my last role? What do I really want from my career, from my life? It's possible for this time to be a catalyst for meaningful change, not just a race back to the way things were.
Now, it's so important that we talk about this next part, because while all these strategies are powerful, sometimes the weight is just too heavy to carry on your own. And I need you to hear this. Recognizing when you need professional support is a sign of incredible strength, not weakness. It can be really helpful to think about this whole experience through the lens of grief, because in so many ways, that's exactly what it is. You're mourning the loss of a routine, of an identity, of a future you had planned. And that's why it is completely normal to feel these waves of sadness, anger, and even deep apathy. You're grieving. So
If you find that these symptoms are sticking around, please consider it a clear signal that it's time to reach out. A really pervasive sense of hopelessness, a total lack of motivation for even things you used to enjoy, major sleep disruptions, or just constant anxiety, these are signs that your mind and body are under immense strain. A therapist, a counselor, or a doctor can give you the specific tools you need to navigate this. So let's end with this question. Just for a moment, forget about the job search. Forget about the pressure. What is one small, kind thing you can do for yourself right now, today? Maybe it's going for a walk or listening to a favorite song, or maybe it's just pausing to acknowledge that this is really hard and you are doing your best. That small act matters more than you know. Be kind to yourself. You really, truly deserve it.